Imagine a casino offering to pay $120 billion to build a massive, sprawling luxury hotel right across the street.
Just to make sure the high rollers actually have a place to sleep.
Exactly, just to make sure they have a bed before they come over to gamble. And I mean, that is essentially what the world's biggest chip maker is doing right now to keep the AI hype alive.
It really is.
Because, for 20 years, the tech industry was defined by software. You write the code once and you scale it infinitely in the cloud for, well, practically free.
Right, software scales beautifully.
But AI is fundamentally different. AI is it's the industrialization of tech. It doesn't scale on code alone. It scales on concrete and copper and transformers.
They're massive cooling systems.
Yeah, exactly. Welcome to the deep dive. Today, our mission is to explore the completely mind-boggling financial math behind the AI arms race.
Because the math is getting wild.
It's insane. We are pulling apart financial reports and some recent insider leaks regarding NVIDIA, OpenAI, a SoftBank subsidiary called SB Energy, and Anthropic.
Some really major players.
Right. We are looking at an industry that has essentially transformed from a neat tool you use on your browser into a financial black hole. Hundreds of billions of dollars are just being gambled on a future that honestly hasn't even been fully invented yet.
Which is a huge risk for everyone involved, including the listener.
Definitely. So, okay, let's unpack this, because the numbers we are looking at today almost defy gravity.
They absolutely do.
Yeah.
And to kind of set the stage for you, the core tension defining this entire AI industry right now is this, it's an unprecedented divergence.
A divergence between what and what?
So on one side of the ledger, you have what these companies are spending today.
Yeah.
The raw, unforgiving, very physical cost of building infrastructure.
Right.
And then on the other side, you have what they hope to make years down the line. We are basically watching an entire sector try to bridge this staggering gap between the heavy physical reality of the present and the hypothetical astronomical profits of the future.
And when we talk about physical reality, we are really talking about real estate. We are talking about data centers.
Yes, tons of land and power.
Which brings us perfectly to the first set of sources we have today. We really want to focus on what it actually costs to physically build this AI future, and more specifically, who is footing the bill.
Which is where it gets interesting.
Yeah, because the spotlight here is entirely on NVIDIA and OpenAI.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, explain the NVIDIA piece here, because it's wild.
Yeah, so according to the recent financial reports and those insider leaks we looked at, NVIDIA is currently in talks to invest up to $3 billion in a company called SB Energy.
Okay, so $3 billion. And what exactly is SB Energy?
Right, so to understand the mechanics here, SB Energy is a subsidiary of SoftBank Group. They were founded back in 2019, and they actually have significant backing from OpenAI.
Okay, so OpenAI is already involved with them.
Exactly. And their primary function right now is developing large-scale power and data center infrastructure projects. They are literally tasked with solving the physical bottlenecks of AI.
Because OpenAI needs places to run all their models.
Exactly. They are building a colossal data center campus in Ohio, specifically to handle OpenAI's workloads.
Wow.
Yeah. And the reports indicate that SB Energy is aiming to go public next month. They want to raise at least $5 billion in their IPO.
Okay, so they need cash to build the Ohio campus. And NVIDIA's proposed $3 billion investment, how does that fit in?
Right, so that $3 billion would be split in two parts. Half of it is paid up front when the Ohio project deal is officially signed.
Okay.
And then the other half gets injected as part of that planned IPO.
$3 billion is a massive equity investment.
It is, but I mean, in the context of this deal, it is merely the appetizer.
Yeah.
It's just what gets them a seat at the table.
Yeah, and this is the part that genuinely stopped me in my tracks when I was reading the source material.
The credit package.
Yes. That $3 billion equity investment is just one piece of NVIDIA providing a massive credit support package for this Ohio campus.
It's hard to even wrap your head around the numbers.
It really is. The initial numbers being discussed for this package were around $250 billion.
Which is just staggering.
Just think about that for a second. $250 billion. Now, the Wall Street Journal recently reported that NVIDIA has revised those plans down. They're now guaranteeing, quote, less than $120 billion.
Oh, only $120 billion?
Right. What a relief. Even revised down, that is an incomprehensible amount of money just to support a proposed OpenAI data center project.
What's fascinating here is the absolute physical constraint of AI and how it forces a company like NVIDIA, a chip maker, to change its entire business model.
Right, because they make the hardware, not the buildings.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's break down how a credit support package actually works. Because NVIDIA isn't just, handing over a briefcase with $120 billion in cash today.
Right, they aren't directly paying for it.
No, a credit support package means NVIDIA is essentially co-signing the loan.
Like a parent co-signing a car loan for a teenager.
Exactly like that, but on a macroeconomic scale. Building a specialized AI data center requires enormous tracts of land, entirely new power grid connections, and incredibly complex liquid cooling systems.
It's brutally capital intensive.
It really is. And banks are, naturally, nervous about loaning tens of billions of dollars to an infrastructure company like SB Energy for a single client speculative workloads.
So NVIDIA steps in.
Right, NVIDIA steps in as the guarantor. If the SoftBank subsidiary defaults on these loans, NVIDIA's on the hook.
Okay, wait, I have to push back on this logic.
Go for it.
NVIDIA sells the chips, they make the hardware. Why on earth are they financially backing the massive real estate and power grid projects that those chips go into? I mean, taking on over $100 billion of risk.
It sounds counterintuitive.
It sounds insane. Isn't that a massive concentration of risk for one hardware company? Going back to my earlier analogy, if the luxury hotel goes bust because nobody wants to stay there, the casino is suddenly on the hook for the entire building.
It is a concentrated risk, yeah. But NVIDIA is looking at the board and realizing they have no other choice.
Really? No choice?
Well, think about it. NVIDIA knows their highly advanced chips are essentially useless without the physical infrastructure to house and power them.
Because they draw so much power.
Exactly. You cannot just plug an AI supercomputer into a standard wall outlet. By stepping in to guarantee this credit, NVIDIA secures its own hardware pipeline.
Oh, I see.
They are effectively acting as a bank to ensure their biggest customers, like OpenAI, actually have a physical location to plug in the billions of dollars worth of chips they are buying.
So if they don't help build the data center, OpenAI can't buy their chips anyway.
Exactly. It reveals exactly how capital intensive these workloads have become, and honestly how fragile the supply chain is if the physical infrastructure doesn't scale at the exact same pace as the silicon.
Wow. So if NVIDIA is essentially acting as a mega bank to build these physical shrines to AI, they must be absolutely certain that companies like OpenAI can actually pay the rent over the long term.
Which is a huge assumption.
Right. Which pivots us perfectly into looking at the other side of the ledger. If NVIDIA is guaranteeing up to $120 billion just to support the infrastructure for one of OpenAI's campuses, how much money do these AI companies actually need to make to justify these costs?
Right. What's the payoff?
Yeah. Let's look at the financial data we have on OpenAI's biggest rival, Anthropic.
This brings us to the revenue side of the equation. Anthropic is currently preparing for what analysts expect to be one of the largest IPOs on record.
A massive public offering.
Right. But to justify the staggering valuation they are seeking from public markets, they have to project their revenues 4 years out.
Okay.
They are aiming for roughly $190 billion to $200 billion in revenue for the year 2028.
We really need to pause and put those two distinct numbers right next to each other, because you, the listener, really need to visualize the sheer scale of the gamble happening right now.
It's unparalleled.
It is. The cost of financing the physical data centers, NVIDIA's $120 billion credit guarantee for just one Ohio campus is running neck and neck with the absolute wildest future revenue dreams of a top-tier AI lab like Anthropic, which is hoping to hit $200 billion.
Right.
The infrastructure costs and the projected revenues are just trapped in the same unbelievable stratosphere.
And the chasm between their current reality and that future goal is vast. I mean, according to the financial leaks in our sources, as recently as May of this year, Anthropic publicized their current revenue run rate at $47 billion.
Okay, let's define what a run rate actually means in this context, because it's a term Wall Street loves to use to make numbers look bigger than they currently are.
Oh, absolutely. A run rate is a forecasting method. It simply takes the revenue from a single recent period, let's say their absolute strongest month of sales, and multiplies it by 12.
Right. To estimate what the yearly revenue would be if that exact pace continued perfectly.
Exactly. It is an inherently volatile metric because it assumes no seasonal dips, no customer churn, and zero market saturation.
Everything goes perfectly.
Right. So, Anthropic is taking a highly optimistic snapshot of $47 billion today and asking investors to believe they will lead to a $200 billion pace in roughly 4 years.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the math requires a profound leap of faith. How do you jump from 47 billion to 200 billion?
That's a multi-billion-dollar question.
I mean, Anthropic's core consumer product is a chatbot subscription. How many $20 a month subscriptions do you need to sell to hit $200 billion?
A lot. Frankly, impossible amount for just consumers.
Right, and even factoring in enterprise API access, predicting consumer and business adoption of a completely new, fast-moving technology 4 years into the future, it feels like trying to predict the weather a decade from now.
It really does, and this raises an important question about the fundamental business model of AI right now, and why these astronomical projections are structurally necessary.
Why do they have to promise so much?
Because currently, the profit margins for an AI company are being absolutely crushed by operational reality.
Because of the computing costs.
Yes, they face enormous, relentless spending on computing power, the incredibly expensive electrical costs of model training, and a fierce bidding war for top-tier engineering talent.
Everyone is trying to hire the same 500 guys.
Exactly. So the core gamble that investors are taking, the premise holding the entire industry together, is the belief that as Anthropic and others grow their user base, their revenue will eventually rise faster than these astronomical infrastructure costs.
They're basically trying to outrun their own spending.
Yes.
They are pedaling a bicycle while trying to build the road underneath them, knowing the road costs billions of dollars a mile.
That is exactly the dynamic at play. The operating assumption is that once the foundational models are fully trained and these massive data centers are finally built and online, the marginal cost of delivering the AI to the end user will drop significantly.
So the hard part is just building it.
Right. That is when they expect their profit margins to actually expand. But they have to survive this hyper-capital intensive building phase first, and they need continuous investor capital to do it.
And that reality creates a deeply tricky problem for the financial world, because traditional financial metrics like price-to-earnings ratios, they simply do not work for companies that are currently burning billions of dollars in cash today for the promise of hypothetical profits in 2028.
Right, because there are no earnings yet.
Exactly. Wall Street can't measure their earnings because there are none. So the bankers are having to invent, or at least heavily adapt, new ways to measure value so they can actually price Anthropic's IPO.
Because the current profits are essentially negative due to the massive capital expenditures of buying NVIDIA chips and building out infrastructure.
Right.
So bankers and investors are turning to a metric called enterprise value to revenue multiples. And crucially, they are not looking at today's revenue.
They are looking ahead.
Way ahead. They're basing these multiples on revenue forecasts looking 2 years or more into the future.
Which is wild.
It is. Now, using a revenue multiple instead of a profit multiple is a fairly common practice for early-stage, high-growth software companies. But looking 2, 3, or 4 years into the future to set that benchmark, that is highly unusual and incredibly aggressive.
It's like valuing an unplanted farm today based on the theoretical market price of the corn you hope to harvest in 4 years.
That's a great way to put it.
Assuming it doesn't rain too much, there are no pests, and no other farmers decide to plant corn at the exact same time, you are pricing the asset entirely on a best-case future scenario.
Exactly. It reflects the immense difficulty of valuing a company whose present financial profile is defined almost entirely by its capital expenditures.
But there is precedent for this, right?
There is, yeah. The sources note that there are recent precedents for this kind of aggressive, forward-looking valuation in the tech sector.
Like who?
Well, the backers of Cerebras Systems cited 2028 revenue expectations in the run-up to their IPO earlier this year. And similarly, SpaceX's internal projections extended as far out as 2029 to justify the record valuation they achieved when they went public in June.
So Wall Street is basically establishing a new playbook for deep tech infrastructure.
They have to. The old rules just don't apply.
So as Wall Street bankers dig around for comparable public companies, what they call comps, to figure out exactly how to price Anthropic ahead of its upcoming Analyst Day, they are relying on 3 very specific reference points.
Right.
The sources explicitly name the 3 companies being used to build this valuation model. It's Palantir, Cloudflare, and SpaceX.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, you can see exactly the formula Wall Street is using by dissecting why they chose those 3 specific companies.
Okay, break that down for us.
Sure. Each one offers a different lens on how the public markets are currently willing to value different aspects of Anthropic's business. Let's start with Palantir.
Okay, the data analytics guys.
Right. They are currently valued at an astonishing 53 times their expected revenue for this year.
53 times expected revenue.
Yeah, which makes it one of the most expensively priced stocks on the market. Palantir serves as the baseline for how Wall Street rewards rapid growth combined with direct, proven exposure to artificial intelligence.
So they are the premium benchmark for AI hype. If you have real AI integration, investors are willing to pay a massive premium on every single dollar of revenue you bring in.
Precisely. Then you look at the second comp, which is Cloudflare.
Yeah.
Cloudflare currently trades at 41.6 times its expected 2026 revenue. Now, they are not an AI lab.
No, they do web infrastructure, security, that kind of stuff.
Exactly. Cloudflare acts as a comparison point for a high-growth infrastructure play. It proves to the bankers that public market investors have a strong appetite for companies that are building the fundamental underlying backbone of the internet, even if that means high infrastructure costs.
Which perfectly maps onto what Anthropic needs to build. And finally, the third piece of the puzzle is SpaceX, which our data shows also trades at 41.6 times its expected 2026 revenue.
SpaceX is perhaps the most revealing comparable here, because SpaceX proves that Wall Street is willing to assign a premium valuation to a company based on the expectation of its future dominant global scale. They are entirely looking past its current cash-burning financial profile.
Because rockets are expensive.
Extremely. Building reusable rockets and satellite constellations is incredibly capital-intensive, much like building AI data centers.
Right.
So when bankers combine the traits of those three companies, Palantir's AI exposure, Cloudflare's high-growth infrastructure model, and SpaceX's promise of future global scale despite current cash burn, you get the exact financial cocktail they're using to justify Anthropic's multi-billion-dollar IPO goals.
It really is a financial high-wire act with no safety net.
None at all.
We are looking at an interconnected tech ecosystem where the hardware supplier, NVIDIA, is stepping in to guarantee up to $120 billion in credit just so a SoftBank-backed entity can build one data center campus in Ohio for OpenAI.
They're basically willing the AI infrastructure into existence with brute financial force.
That's exactly it. And on the flip side, you have software companies like Anthropic projecting astronomical revenue jumps to $200 billion by 2028 just to keep the public investment money flowing in to pay for all that expensive infrastructure.
Which is a huge ask of the market.
It is. So what does this all mean? Why should you, the listener, care about the intricacies of forward revenue multiples and Ohio real estate development if you aren't, an AI researcher or an investment banker?
It affects everyone.
It does. You should care because the sheer scale of this spending is no longer contained to Silicon Valley. It is impacting the broader global economy.
Yes. The sources explicitly highlight that the relentless pace of spending on AI infrastructure has already been responsible for significant pullbacks in many of the most popular technology stocks in recent months.
These investors getting spooked.
Right. Investors are looking at the capital expenditure sheets and getting really nervous.
This isn't happening in a vacuum. If you have a retirement fund, a 401k, a pension, or literally any exposure to the broader stock market, your financial future is directly tied to this exact gamble.
Absolutely.
These companies are building the physical infrastructure of the future economy, and they are betting hundreds of billions of dollars that you, your employer, and everyone else is going to use it enough to pay them back.
And that leaves us with a critical structural question to consider as we watch the next few years unfold.
Yeah, what's the big takeaway here?
Well, we started this deep dive by discussing how AI operates as a financial black hole, pulling in unprecedented amounts of capital based entirely on the promise of the future.
Right.
But if the entire industry, from the hardware chip makers taking on infrastructure debt to the software labs projecting revenues 4 years away, if everyone is betting everything on perpetual growth, what happens to the global tech market if the public's demand for AI workloads simply plateaus before these sprawling data centers are even finished being built? Do the high roller whales walk away from the table before the casino's luxury hotel even opens its doors?
A terrifying but completely necessary thought to chew on as we watch the greatest infrastructure build-out of our generation. That is all we have for today's deep dive.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for exploring the numbers and the physical reality of the AI boom with us. Keep a close eye on those tech stocks, and we'll see you next time.